Dallas Giants kicks off a week of grudge matches. Can the Cowboys right the ship against their rivals in the Meadowlands?
Bills Ravens, Josh versus Lamar. The battle for possible AFC supremacy continues in week 4.
If there's anything we've learned from when the Seahawks and the Lions come to play in the last few years, it's kind of get your popcorn ready because it's going to be a scoring bonanza. After a few close ones lately, can the Lions get back to their Super Bowl aspirations and ground the Seahawks right back down to earth?
Who would have thought week 4, Vikings versus Packers, would be an elite matchup? Sam Darnold's got the Vikings on the rise. And the bigger question is Jordan Love going to be available for the pack?
Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee. We've actually got a lot of good matchups in this one. Let's start breaking it down.
Week 4. For all the great matchups, you think they'd finally figure out Thursday night. Yeah, yet again, Nutmeg, here we are. Giants, Cowboys. It is what it is. So how are we doing, sir?
Good, good. Well, let me ask you something. If that's the case, did you at least expect on paper going into the season that this would be something that kind of gets the old juices going, the old nostalgia, or you just kind of think that this is going to be a mess from the start, even before we played the last few weeks?
I figured it was going to be a mess, but I figured it would have been a bigger mess. I figured the Cowboys might have been up by 3 scores by now, and it just would have been like, all right, we're not even going to talk about this game. We'll just put the score on the ticker and move on. But
Yeah,
no, the Giants are fooling around and making it interesting. So it is what it is. If you're a Cowboys fan, I don't think you're too happy. If you're a Giants fan, you're ecstatic. You're in it.
yeah. And I, as the game started off, I'm watching. I'm being like, okay, if there was one game for the Cowboys defense to get back on track, it would be this one. You got one dangerous weapon out there to guard. Daniel Dimes, I mean, he came into the league. Everyone thought he could move, but in the last couple of years, he really has. I don't know what happened to his wheels. He's got a flat tire or something. So you would think that this would be the opponent that Dallas could kind of get back going, but I see no pass rush in this one. I see them giving these big wide cushions to the receivers and lack of discipline on defense with the penalties.
If the Giants had one more weapon, I don't know, Saquon Barkley, it would probably be they'd probably be winning. Let's be honest. So it's just the Cowboys they're playing down to their competition, and the Giants are working with what they have. So it's this mess that we have. Honestly, it's nothing great. Like I said, like you said, the Dallas defense really non-existent, but it's more or less the Giants not being able to score and put points up that's keeping it like it is.
They do have a 26 in the backfield, but Saquon it is not.
Well, if you go to a Dick's in the tri-state area, I'm sure there's still some Saquon jerseys on the clearance rack, and they had they had them go pick one up. You know,
The money grubbing NFL that it is, I'm sure the discount rack is still $50.
no, they let you go like 49.98.
Wow, yeah. No taxes included.
They hook you up. They hook you up
The
with that.
hook, yeah. I mean, how do you think this offense is going? Because Dax, the one thing that I could kind of take as a silver lining from the Cowboys in this one is that Dak has kind of gotten everyone involved. Rico Dowdle finally found the end zone. Fortunately, he's sitting on my fantasy bench right now. Um, but he finally finds the end zone, and Ferguson's been getting in the mix, and Cook's had a big play up the middle, and of course CD's been getting his catches when he can. But how do you you think at least the offense looks good, or how we expected it to take some kind of silver lining out of this?
No, it's simple. There's no run game, man. Like that's all it is. Like there is no run game. So this is what you get. Teams can sit back and say, "All right, Dak, throw it around the yard. We'll get you sooner or later," because
Mm-hmm.
you can't. You're not forcing a defense to play honest when you can't run the ball. Like let's be real. Like they can't run the ball. No one is scared of the Dallas run game. So at that point, you pin your ears back and say, "All right, Dak, throw it." All you have is CeeDee Lamb, and then you have Ferguson. And then after that, it's a hodgepodge of whoever can get open at that time or whoever's on the field. So that's what this team is. So no run game, offense.
At least it's a more truer representation from what we're seeing in this one of how we expect Dallas to be this season. Because it would have been one thing if this game started and they just came out guns ablazing, going right down the field, and uh, the Giants just looked like they forgot there was a game to be played. Because like, okay, everyone's like, oh, we them boys, Cowboys are back, but it looks a little more fool's gold. At least the way this one's gone, it's kind of like, okay, no, this is Dallas.
Yeah, when Dallas comes to town or you go to their house, you know what you're getting. You're getting a pass happy team with no run game. So you don't have to worry about that part. You're like, all right, our run defense don't have to, we'll, install our plan, but it's not anything we're worried about. It's okay, worry about CD, and then after that, everything will flow that way. That's all this is. This team is just one dimensional and is just going to continue to suffer. They're hell bent on thinking their defense is going to, get turnovers like they have in the past. That's not happening. It's not a good offense, and they're mediocre at best.
At least when you go to Dallas, that you can at least expect to walk out with a victory because we all know they don't play well.
Yeah, yeah. At home, it's like whatever, dude. At that point, it's almost like it's an away home game for you. No one cares.
Yeah. So teams that actually have played well this season, actually both to a certain extent, surprisingly so. We've gone over Minnesota quite a bit last week. 3-0 heading up to Lambeau. Big rivalry game as usual. These teams usually do split, even when the Vikings are significantly undermatched. And the Packers, 2-1 going into the season, you would thought, okay, that's probably worst case scenario. But considering the fact that Jordan Love's been out, 2-1 is actually a bit of a bright spot. And
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Love might play in this one. They probably held him out of last week as a precaution to make sure he was good for this one. So we don't totally know if he'll be ready for Sunday. But what do you kind of think of this one? This is like this. Obviously, this is a big rivalry, and now they both kind of come into this one to take some kind of charge on the division, with Detroit kind of not getting off the quite the fireworks we thought they would.
It's just gonna be whether Jordan plays or not. If Jordan doesn't play, it's business as usual. They've proven, the last couple of weeks, the defense has played well, and you got to give Malik Willis credit. He's played well. He's stayed within the framework. Hasn't done anything he shouldn't be doing, and they've won. So at this point, I think they're highly confident going into this matchup, and it's business as usual. So I think with Minnesota, you have to, I guess, go in with two game plans. Ooh, excuse me. Whether it's Malik or it's going to be Jordan. Now, if Jordan comes back, I'm assuming he'll be 100%. There may be a little hesitation, a little bit of rust. It's been a couple of
Yeah.
weeks with no game action, so I'm sure he'll slowly ease himself in. I don't think he's going to start bombing right off the bat, but I think it just depends on how he feels. I don't think they have to rush. They're confident in what they have. If Malik needs to go one more week, they'll do that, and then Jordan will be ready 100% to go next week.
If you're Minnesota, which QB would you rather play? The one that's maybe not necessarily the better player, but he's in a rhythm right now and he's getting more used to the offense and he's healthy, or the one that's the borderline superstar, but he's coming off an injury and, like you said, he may be rusty.
I think if you're Minnesota, you may want Malik, because you've seen enough film where you can say, okay, this is what he does. We can figure this out. We can really force him to throw, because like he's thrown a little bit, but still, it's been really short stuff, extended stuff with his legs, kind of deal. So I would rather face Malik because at that point you've got enough tape and you can say, okay, this is what we got to do. Jordan could come back and just continue on as normal, and then you're like, oh, here we go. Now we got to make sure we're putting up points because he's 100% and he's back. You don't know. So if I could get one more week of Malik, if I could be that team, then I would take my chances with him.
Yeah. And defense defense wise, the Minnesota defense has been a bit of a real surprise here. And then the Green Bay defense, we kind of knew they were pretty decent, very
Mm-hmm.
young unit. But they had a little more expectation. So let's just let's say it is Malik. Like, which defenses that you we would kind of expect maybe points to be at a premium here. I mean, obviously Darnold's been amazing in the early going, especially considering it's Sam Darnold. But uh, which defense do you think maybe has the easier assignment or even the harder assignment? With the Packers maybe being more expectations going against Darnold versus the Minnesota defense. If it's Willis, they kind of like, okay, at least it's not a healthy Jordan.
I think Minnesota's defense has the better shot because they can kind of pin their ears back and say, okay, well Malik only does this and that, only does A and B. Jordan's doing A, B, C, and D. So Brian Flores has done a great job this year with that defense in Minnesota. So I think he's going to plan, especially if it's just Malik, he's going to put Malik into some really rough situations. So I would rather be the Minnesota defense.
Do you think it'll be like that and pretty low scoring and kind of struggle to get points, or do you think maybe it's one of those two positives cancel each other out and we see some scoring here?
The way that the season's been overall, it wouldn't surprise me if
Yeah,
both teams, all of a sudden, in the high 20s, low 30s, it could very well turn into that. You can't, sit here and say, oh yeah, because of this and this, the odds say this is what the game's going to be. You got to throw that out the window the way this season's gone. So I'd be a fool to sit here and say, oh yeah, it'll be like 16-13. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think some points could pop up on the board for sure.
take the under and they both score 40.
Yep, exactly. The line will be like 48 or something. Next thing you know.
So I'm curious to know what kind of expectations you have for your own team this week. Kind of licking your wounds off the loss and welcoming Philly into town. And we've gone back and forth on Philly because we see kind of streaks of the Philly we expect, but then a lot more streaks of an inconsistent Philly. Sirianni making strange decisions on the field, kicking a 60-yarder. Um, Jalen Hurts looking like all run and no pass. Obviously, their health's been a concern. AJ Brown might be out. AJ Brown doesn't exactly look like he may be ready to go. Devontae Smith suffered a concussion last week, so this Eagles team, this might be the best time for your Bucks to catch the Eagles.
Very well could be. Right now, the Eagles are right now Saquon and the boys. You got to be honest. Saquon has basically really been the offensive power behind that team. So it's basically going to be containing Saquon and making sure that our offensive line holds up. Our offensive line played really rough last week, and it's been a reoccurring theme. So it's a situation of keeping Baker upright and giving him some time. Yeah, it's great. He scrambles and all in the back and all. And has done some great things this year, but you can't live on that. So the offensive line really needs to step up, give Baker some time and open up some holes in the run game. I think if that happens, then I think we've got a good shot. You control Saquon and you force Hurts to really be the guy. I don't know if he is. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think those are the keys to the game, pure and simple.
How far the stars have fallen when it comes to our affinity towards Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it doesn't help that your receivers are beat up too. I've got to
Yeah,
give them. I've got to give them that. But once the offensive coordinator bounced. He hasn't been the same.
Mm, my guy.
Yeah,
um,
yes, your guy.
what do you think? Well, he's actually not inspiring too much confidence in Indy right now, but that's beside the point. Anyway, back to topic. What do you think? Yeah, of Tampa's chances with the rebuilt defensive front to contain Saquon? Like, is it like, do you like, oh, is this a contain him? Like, okay, just hold him under 80, or can you actually hope to shut him down?
I don't see the whole. I wouldn't. I'm not going to go in there and say, yeah, you shut him down. Yeah, if you can hold him to about 80, you don't have to really worry about him catching passes because it's just not his forte. He's proven that.
Yeah,
So yeah,
especially last week.
if you can keep them to 80 and keep the big chunk plays to a minimum, then you've got a shot. Like I said, the key to it is going to be forcing Jalen to really throw the ball. He's got to be the guy. But with that means okay, so Goddard is the guy you got to shut down too. You got to make sure
Mhm.
Goddard's under control, because if you're letting him kind of go free willy nilly, he can have a big game like he did last week.
Yeah, and if you can at least take him out, you don't have to. You can keep an extra man up close to the line of scrimmage. Um, that of course the best way to shut down a running back is to score some points early and
Mm-hmm.
keep the ground game in kind of on the back burner for the opposition. So let's talk Bucks versus the Philadelphia defense. I guess they're the front of their defense has been a little bit rebuilt, but the back of their defense, I guess that's kind of where the shine has been in the early going this season. So where do you think the best matchups are for Baker to cook or bake, as you like to say? And
If they can keep him upright, then he can. I think he can pass real well on the secondary. But that's what it comes down to. You got to keep Jalen Carter under wraps, and you got to give him time. The strength of the Philly defense is that line and Jalen Carter. If you contain him, then they should have a shot. But if you let him go all crazy and that line get going, it's going to be a tough. That secondary isn't that great. There's holes in all over that secondary. You can throw on them. It's just keeping Baker upright and being able to run the ball and keeping Baker upright. That's what it is.
so you are concerned with the offensive line in this one as the
Yeah.
biggest quote unquote weak spot for Tampa Bay.
Yep, the offensive line, because that was the weakness last week. So I think if they're able to hold their ground, Baker should be all right. But if it's a repeat of last week, could be a long game.
With the win, will we see the chef hat come out?
Of course.
There
It's right here, ready to go as always.
you go. So, speaking of high flying offenses, uh, Seattle and Detroit. Um, I want to rip off some numbers here because when they get ready to square up against each other, it's almost an automatic to take the over in that one. So in their last three matchups, they've combined for 80 points, 93 points, and 68 points.
Okay.
Now we expect that from the Lions, but Geno Smith was a bit of a surprise being able to put up those kind of numbers. So I think the 93 was in
Mm-hmm.
his first year with the Seahawks. So this one, I guess we'll focus on the defense, which the Seattle defense is little bit rebuilt. The Lions defense is the unit of last year with some tweaks in the secondary. So who's kind of got which defense kind of has the edge in this one?
I say the Lions, and I think it's Aiden Hutchinson right then. I think he is it. If they can't control him, they don't have a shot. Like, he's unbelievable. Right now, it's to the point now where you've got to throw two guys on him. He's slowly starting to get to that point where maybe in another couple years he gets the Aaron Donald, treatment and gets the three guys on him. So I think their D line does get a good push. They've got great linebackers. Their linebackers play great. Seattle, is banged up at the running back position. So honestly, I think this is prime for the Lions.
And for have you been able to catch any Seattle games in the early going? Any bits and pieces? Do you think their offensive line is equipped to maybe single coverage them, or do they have to? Are they like really just not gonna be able to get away with that?
I think the issue is with Walker being hurt. I don't know if he's coming back this week, but I think they would need both backs. The issue
Yeah,
is the issue is the lines, both offensive defensive lines are solid, but the lines just have great linebackers that can pursue, that can play the pass. And if Geno's just gonna hand the ball off, they don't have a shot. Geno's gonna have to be really smart with his passes because these guys are really really good. These linebackers. So I think it's basically three layers that Geno's really gonna have to watch out for. He can't say, okay, well, if I can just sit in the pocket, I'll be all right because I'll be able to shred the secondary. Now the Lions secondary isn't the best, but when you have linebackers in front of you who can pursue and things like that, it makes your job a little easier. So it's Geno's got a tough order. I don't, the Hawks they're a solid team, but I just think the Lions, I think their defense is just going to be too much.
now he did come off of a little bit of an injury scare last week. Assuming Sam Laporta plays this week, is this going to be the week where the tight end finally gets going? Because he's been on a bit of a Travis Kelsey stretch this season.
I don't know. If he's 100%, then yeah, because at that point the Lions have the weapons. Let's be honest. You got your running backs, you've got the wide receivers, so he should be able to eat. But I also think it's a situation where you don't have to push him. You don't. You've got so many weapons. If he's not 100%, or if you think something's off, let him rest. Let him rest a week.
Yeah.
I think they should have enough weapons to be able to handle the Hawks. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's not a Travis Kelsey thing. He's just getting old and just whatever.
Do you think teams are keying on Laporta, or is it a bigger issue with injury? Maybe it wasn't just last week.
I think it's
Or
just
is
an
your team just
injury. I think he's just banged up. That's what it is. Because this is last year teams couldn't handle him. It's not like he was going from like 32 to 33 years old where speed or falling off the cliff. He's been banged up a bit. He was banged up in preseason, so it's just one of those things where you just got to get him healthy. So no, I don't think it's teams are holding him or anything, holding him down or anything like that. It's just nicked up and just got to get healthy.
who is pick one Lions weapon to break this open and give them be the X factor?
Wow. Let's see. If I had to pick one, I don't know if he's had like the game yet, but I'm gonna go with the Sun God. Like I don't think he's had like the games we're used to. Like he's been solid, but he'll usually he might get that nine receptions for like a $120, $130, a couple touchdowns where he's just there.
Yeah,
He's been a little nicked up too, but I
yeah.
think him could be Reynolds too. They've got so many weapons, but I think the Sun God, Amon-Ra, I think if he just gets that one game, that one signature game, then he's good to go.
Do you like Seattle's run defense against the? I don't want to call them Thunder and Lightning, but the Lightning and Lightning.
I don't, because those guys just don't run. They do everything. Like if they were just runners, if they were like two Saquons, then I'd say, all right. Even though Saquon, makes pretty much any defense. It's so far this year pretty pedestrian. But these guys out of the backfield catching passes, they're lining them up as receivers. I don't think they match up well. I
Hmm.
don't. If it's a situation where they're just going to take, Montgomery and just bang them 20 times and then, bring out Gibbs and do a little something like that, then yeah, they've got a shot in holding those guys down. But those guys are out of the backfield catching passes. They're like, pseudo wide receivers as well. So I think it's a tall task for the Seattle defense.
Give me a number, Bucks McGee. What's the combined point output in this one?
I'll give you like 53 maybe.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's going to be high. Honestly, I don't. To me, 53 is like I'm shooting for the stars.
Yeah.
Conservative is going like 46,
Okay.
47 in that range. I think the Lions will put up their points. I think Seattle will probably keep it close for a little bit, but I just think the Lions are due for that game where it just everything just clicks and they just put up the points, and they haven't the last couple weeks.
That's right. I mean, but yeah, between the game against your fellas and then the Cardinals game, they are due for a bit of an explosion.
Yeah, it was 20 points against the Cardinals and then 16 against us. So it's maybe this is the game where they say, oh, they visit the 30 mark.
And even that, I think even that Rams game was a little low, 23, 24, something like that. Even I think that was on the lower side.
Yeah. So they haven't hit that, that 30 point, where we were seeing it almost every other week last year. So this could be it.
Bonanza.
Oh.
Well, speaking of scoring bonanzas, that's what the Buffalo Bills did on Monday night. we'll get to the Jags in a minute, but um,
Why? Why do you want to talk about that? There's what oh Lord. All right.
I think we say it every week. Maybe it's the reverse jinx factor, but Buffalo was our whipping boy last year, and they're not looking. And despite all the retooling and the fire sailing, they're not looking like anyone's whipping boy right now. And sure enough, their opponent this week is Baltimore Ravens. They obviously they had that big explosion against the Cowboys, but they also collapsed and almost lost it. So make sense of this. Is this going to be the Josh Allen show, and Baltimore's going to look silly, or is Baltimore kind of quote unquote back, and we're going to see a real quarterback duel?
Okay. If you're gonna take what the first 3 weeks have been, honestly, I think the Josh Allen show continues, and the Ravens are gonna, are still gonna struggle. I'm not so. Believe me, I thought going into the season that the Ravens were gonna be that team, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what's like I said. It's not like it's injuries. Stuff isn't clicking. I think they need a new voice. I think it's time to move on. Get yourself somebody.
For
But
once, it's not injuries. For once, it's not injuries.
yeah, exactly. For once, you 3 straight weeks, your running back is there. There's some
Yeah.
consistency. Maybe they're going to get. And last week they got back to what they did best, was run the ball and then have Lamar work off of that. Right now, Josh Allen is just playing ball, and you know what? There's the turnovers are a lot less. He doesn't have to throw for 300 plus yards. He's spreading the ball around. Yeah, he's taking off and running a little bit with the ball, but the guy's like 250. The guy, it's a big boy right there. So, if he can handle it, you let him do it. He's throwing the ball to everybody. Everybody's involved. It could be anybody at any time. It's not, the, Stephon Diggs show and then everybody else. So I think they're even more dangerous. Cook is playing unbelievable. Their defense has played better than I expected.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a situation of whether the Ravens defense shows up. It comes down to the Ravens defense.
Is it surprising to you that Josh Allen's turnovers are down, considering he's had to learn a completely new set of weapons? And you would think when the quarterback has to learn new teammates, he's they're not going to be in sync and turnovers are just going to happen. But so has it surprised you that the turnovers are actually down and he's been a much cleaner Josh Allen?
I think it's a situation where they've turned the offense and I don't want to say dumbed it down, but just said, all right, Josh, here, this is what we do. Don't look for just the one guy. Like say, he said, he's like, they've probably said, you've got these weapons. Let's use everybody. They've turned this offense into a everybody eats at any time offense. You know, it could, if they can run the ball, then they're going to run the ball. They're like, all right, Josh, you don't need to throw the ball 35 times. If Cook has that matchup and he's performed, let's make it happen. You know,
Yeah.
Keon Coleman's starting to catch fire. You know, you've got quality tight ends. So I think Josh has realized, hey, I've got to be able to move the ball to anybody at any time. I can't do it all myself. And if I do it this way, there's going to be success. And it's shown. These are quality weapons. Yeah, they're not, top tier, high priced guys, but they're guys who can play the game and they're in a system that they can flourish in.
Are you more surprised in Buffalo keep continuing to look like Buffalo despite all the changes? Or are you more surprised in Baltimore's struggles, considering all the expectations that were going into the season?
For me, it's the Baltimore defense. I didn't think it was going to be this kind of letdowns, at certain points of the game, and like they just don't look the same to me. Like they just don't look like that Baltimore defense. So for me, it's that Baltimore defense, and for them to have any shot, at anything this year, they've got to figure it out. They got to be able to close games out, not let teams creep back, because you're going to do that and you're going to get a team that's going to beat you. So
Yeah.
you can't do that. So they've got some stuff to clean up. The offense last week looked a lot better. They actually let Henry run and worked off of that, but that defense really needs to shore up.
Yeah, and to that point, this will be an interesting week to see if how much juice Derrick Henry does have in the tank, because you could almost argue that last week his successes may have just been because Dallas's defense is horrible.
It very well could have been, but you didn't sign, you didn't bring Henry in for 12 carries a game, and that was going to be it. Like he's going to be the workhorse. That's what you signed him for. So hand him the ball 19, 20 times. If he's your guy, he's your guy.
Actually, I'll push you a little bit on that one because in the preseason, you were heavy on not expecting him to be the Derrick Henry of 6, 7 years ago. Kind of relying on him as a piece instead of a focal point. But being the way we've seen the season go for them, do you think he does need to be a focal piece like he was last week?
Well, I thought you would have. For me, a balance for Derrick Henry is okay. 15 carries. 15 carries is good because when Tennessee they'd give him the ball 25 times and he churn and churn and churn. The way that this Baltimore offense is, I think it's the way it looks now is that it will run its best when Derrick is getting the ball 15, maybe 20 times. And at that point, because you've got to pick your poison, either let Lamar with his legs, come after you, or it's Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry will beat a team up physically, beat a line, and then at that point, second half, Lamar can start to do his thing. So I think that's what you have to do because literally your window is only finite because
Yeah.
we don't know what the AFC is going to churn out. And the way it's looking right now, your 1 and 2s or 1A or 1B are the Chiefs and the Bills. So you gotta this is your window. You gotta use everything you got. So if that means you gotta run Derek a little more, then so be it.
And you've already dropped one tiebreaker. Don't go and drop both of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Last point on this game, based on the defenses that we have seen the Ravens go up against, Kansas City's defense, the Raiders, whatever that disaster was, and then the Cowboys. Do you think the offense will have success moving the ball? Henry will have success plowing ahead against this Bills defense that you yourself said you're pretty impressed with.
I think they'll be able to run the ball. I think these teams know each other. All these guys know Derrick Henry. It's not like, he came from the NFC or anything like that. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I think, if it's a steady diet of Derrick Henry, I think with any team, he's going to, start to break the wall a little bit. And, you guys can start feeling tired in the third and fourth quarter. He makes you hurt, So I think it's one of those things where the Buffalo has to be able to handle Derrick Henry, but make sure like on third downs, you're not letting them convert, making sure that they're long third downs. Unfortunately, it's weird, but maybe you got to say, all right, Lamar, you got to throw the ball because let's be honest, Mark Andrews has been non-existent this season.
Yeah.
Mark Andrews has been non-existent. Isaiah Lively's he had the great game against the Chiefs, but everything else has been kind of Zay
Fell right off.
Flowers has been your only real consistent offensive weapon. So if Buffalo keys on him, those other guys are going to have to show out. And I don't
Yeah.
know if they can, or the addition of Henry's really messed up the mojo everywhere else. So
How ironic would that be? They bring in this back to stay healthy and give Lamar some help, and not through not of his own fault because when they gave him the ball, he produced, but he's the one that kind of destroys the equilibrium.
unreal, man, unreal.
Well, you want to have some fun with some quick hitters?
Sure, why not? I'm down for some quick stuff. Let's do it.
This game was kind of ripped away from fans last season. We were expecting, after the offseason drama with Rodgers, we were expecting him to go up to Mile High and put a crooked number on the Broncos for trashing Nathaniel Hackett. But of course, we know how last season went for Rodgers, and now we get take two, and the Broncos will be back in the Meadowlands. So, do you think this uh, elder statesman of Rodgers, this game manager of the greatest quarterback of all time. Do you think he's gonna want to come out and put up Aaron Rodgers type of numbers against Broncos to have his coaches back?
You mean the greatest single Super Bowl winning quarterback of all
Yeah.
time? Okay, yeah. Let's
Well,
make sure.
sorry, I thought the sarcasm was
Oh, it
restricted
was, it
enough. Like,
was, it was. Um, you know, I'm not sold on the Jets yet because they just have like you beat up on the Patriots last week. Like
right.
everyone needs to pump the brakes. It was the Patriots. Let's be real here. So
Yeah, I'm not sold on the defense. I mean, the defense has been the big concern, and everyone thinks the Jets are back because they beat the Patriots. I'm like,
it's
they,
because you shut down the mighty, Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, woo. Okay, whatever. So now you've got Denver. Now, mind you, Denver was great. Man, we talked about Bo Nix. I was a Bo Nix fan. He's like the old man. He was like that guy who stayed in high school an extra year or two, and came out and he was all like had a mustache or something in like freshman year, and you were like, dang, dude.
he's almost what Jason White should have been out of Oklahoma years back.
Exactly, right? So now uh, they played great last week. So now we're gonna see, he's going up against an elite defense. So we're gonna see what Sean Payton can, come up with, for Bo. I think Bo is smart. I don't really trust the Jets offense yet. I need to see a complete game. If they're playing. I'm not trying to knock Denver, but it's like, all right, if they had went in, whooped up on the Chiefs, and then said, all right, we took Buffalo out 2 weeks later, they'd be like, all right, here we go. Oh, there's no chance in heck here,
Yeah.
But I've got to see consistency from the Jets before I can sit here and say, yeah, this is it right here. So
That's interesting. Do you think the X factor in this one is Sean Payton's game plan and whether or not Bo Nix will be successful? Because the Jets are kind of at least a little easier to read.
I think they're going to have to be able to move the ball on the ground. If they can do that, then it's going to make it a lot easier for Bo to do his thing. If they can't move the ball and like you're forcing Bo, you can't force Bo to throw the ball 40 times. Like that's just it's just not feasible. So I think that's what you're going to see. probably a lot of stuff out of the backfield. They're probably going to try to really grind this game out, keep points to a premium, and we'll see what happens. But if you were to tell me that somehow Denver pulls something off at the last minute, I'm not
Yeah.
going to sit here and tell you no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you no.
Speaking of pulling things off, that's what the Panthers did last week. Surprising the world because apparently it's not the problems weren't that their shelled up offensive line, for lack of a better word, and now they're back at home, and Andy Dalton's old team is coming to town, a Cincinnati squad that's been a little I don't know if up and down quite does it justice.
The Bungles. It's what it is, man. It's a mess there. It's not like they're, oh man, just one or two wins. They're a mess. They're just a straight mess.
Yeah, they kind of got embarrassed. You figured they would rebound against rebuilding Washington club, and they kind of got embarrassed a little bit on Monday night.
Nope. Nope. If you put any money on the Bengals, you better try to get something back. You better bet on Washington. I think you got a better shot at this rate, this point of the season. It's a rough one. I give Andy Dalton his props. I gave him his flowers last week. Over 300 yards, 3 tutties. At this point, the man's just playing. It's not like he's got anything to lose. He didn't think he was going to be starting anymore. He had no idea. He didn't think he was going to start again in the league. So at this point, he's playing with house money. No one believes in Carolina. If you have any kind of speech going on there, Dave Canales, that's what you preach to these guys. No one believes in you. They're thinking that we suck. So you know what? Just go out there and do what you do. Because at that point, you've got no fear. You're going to just play loose. And honestly, I'm not scared of Cincinnati. No. Why?
Yeah, exactly. Why? What have they done in 3 games to make you think you should be scared of them?
I'm starting to tire of the Joe Burrow aura. Like it's time to let it go. Like really, it is. I understand a couple years ago, Burrow had blah blah blah, but the NFL is a "what have you done for me lately" league, and what has he done? The whole slow starts and this and that. Like, come on, it's ridiculous. And believe me, that organization really doesn't know what to do anyways. They're penny pinchers and a whole bit. Like, let's be real. Like I'm not a fan of the whole Chase contract thing. I would have told him, you wait another year. And if not, then we got to do what we got to do. Because this is ridiculous. He has 2 years on the contract. I get it. He's outperformed the contract. But come on, man. Just one more year, then get your contract right. But Cincinnati's he's going to pull teeth to pay him.
Yeah. The Joe Mixon thing.
You were ready to trade Hendrickson. He was ready to kick rocks. He was ready to leave. So you've got all these issues there, and you guys just notoriously start slow. Well, you started as slow as you can, and I don't know if you guys can bounce back. So the Rocket's going to go in there. The rifle, he's probably going to throw for another 300. If you told me that the Panthers beat the Bungles, I'd be like, yep, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you think that the actual odds are for an encore performance like that? Because I mean, he's obviously going to be motivated. It's his old team. I mean, and we've certainly not left any stone unturned with how bad the Bengals are. So I mean, what are the actual odds for encore performance here?
could be good. Like honestly, like I said, there's no fear there. I have not seen a signature Bengals game, signature win. It's been a mess this year. So they're gonna go, and Panthers are gonna. And the odds are the Panthers will lose, but I'm not gonna lie. I'm all about the chaos. Let them throw for 287, 2 touchdowns. Chuba Hubbard can run for a couple, and they pull off the upset. Then at that point, Cincinnati needs to say, "All right, something's got to give. Something's got to give."
And there might be a situation where they blow this team up in the offseason before it even gets back to negotiations with Chase.
Maybe you should. Why not? Let's be honest. If you look at, I think this team peaked too soon. Yeah, made it to the Super Bowl and, blah, blah, blah. But what have they done since? I honestly believe this is a team that read its own clippings and felt they were great. And, oh, we're going to get back. It's one of those things where you think, okay, we got there. Maybe we're getting back there again. We're the heir apparent because that's what everybody was saying. And you haven't done anything. So maybe you say, okay, you know what? What can I get for Jamar Chase? Why not? If you go, you tank it out, or don't tank it, but play how you're playing now, which is fine. You'll end up with a top 5 pick probably. Find yourself another wide receiver, trade them off for some number ones, and call it a day.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you don't think the 2 stars coming off of injury is an excuse anymore.
Joe's been fine the last couple weeks. It's not like they can't score points. They can't stop anybody, but they're just they're just not there. This isn't the Bengals of a couple years ago. I'm not going to put it all on the defense, but you should never have gotten rid of Joe Mixon. I think that was a bad mistake. At this point, yeah, I guess you should have signed, like I said, you should have signed Chase. If I was them, I would have put my foot down right off the bat. Okay, we're not doing this till after the season. So either you like it or you don't. You want to sit out? Then fine. You do what you do. We move on. But they let this drag, and then there were rumors it was going to get done, and then it didn't get done. So now the organization looks like a bunch of fools. And Chase is like, okay, well, yeah, I guess I'll play now, and yada, yada. No, this has been a whole mess. They got to figure it out. But no, let the rifle throw for 287 and 2 tutties. Let it happen.
And I hinted at it a minute ago, and I feel like you've got a harsh take here because earlier in the season you did predict give this a few more weeks, and maybe it's time for Doug Peterson to walk out the door here. The Jags are 0-3 going into Houston. They haven't looked quite like Houston we're expecting, but they're still 2-1. They're still doing what they have to do, even if they're not looking as pretty as we thought they would. So I mean, there's no other way to label this as a must-win for the Jags, I would think.
Oh yeah, this is a hot mess. Oh, the Jags. Yep, time for a new coach. Point blank, it's time. There's talent on this team. Like, you're telling me that the talent that you have on this team, and you can't win a game. And you've been in games all season and you just can't finish? Come on. I think, honestly, and mind you, Doug Peterson's been great. He was the right guy to right the ship after the Urban Meyer fiasco. But now it's time to get somebody else, time to get a new voice. I literally, if they lose this week, I can't see them making the playoffs. I don't think they have that ability to turn it around like that. I just don't. I think there's just – and Trevor has not been good. The overthrows have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, I know he's a tall dude, and, tall guys, it's a little different. You got to, bring it down and stuff like that, the torque and all that, fun stuff. But this team is just not there. I don't know what it is. They're like the Bengals 2.0.
Bengals 2.0. They're the OG Bengals.
All the talent, can't get it right.
And it's funny, you'd think that, considering he was the coach that had led the Nick Foles Eagles to the Super Bowl, it's weird to picture him leading a team that can't finish a game.
I also think that Eagles team was older, a little more mature. So I think it's a situation where the voice, if these Jags were 4 or 5 years older, he'd be a perfect fit because he doesn't have to sit in there and handle these young guys. Yeah, let's get it right. This is what we do. Because at that point, you've got veterans who just want to win. So you're not worrying about guys running around being stupid.
No more ego.
Exactly. You've been there long enough. You've had some success, but now it's like, what's going on? What is the problem? It can't be the talent. So process of elimination, because what's going to happen is Shad Khan's going to say, nope, with all this talent, what I'm paying, No, that's not how this is going to work. The coach will go. So older people like to come to Florida and retire. So
Oh, so you've moved on from the Cowboys prediction. Now you're thinking he's going to go down to Jacksonville.
Jerry Jones is going to screw that up. No. Here's what Jerry Jones is going to screw that up and sign McCarthy for like another 10 years. So whatever. Dallas is Dallas. For all we know, the hooded one has clauses in all those contracts because that man is all over TV. He's on every show known to man. Where if someone says, "Hey, man, I can get a job," he can leave. Him and Con are cool. They've hung out. It's fact.
You told me this off air maybe a week ago or so, and I actually did catch a couple episodes of this past week's Inside the NFL, and I didn't believe it when you said it, but I was like, he actually does have a little bit of a personality. Belichick.
I'm telling you, if you watch him on the Manning cast, these commercials for I forget what betting site and all this stuff, dude, he's a freaking hoot. He's like, all right, he's an all right guy. When he coaches, he's a total asshole. I'm like, whatever, man. I'm done with you. I'm done, man. I can't stand you. But you know what? I would have a beer with the guy because he's funny. He's a funny dude.
Yeah.
I think he finally realized and said, you know what? I'm getting paid a lot of money and I don't have to be an ass anymore. I just be me. Just be me. So, I think because I think he'll get one more job. I really do. I think once he gets another job, they mail him some hoodies, he puts them on, and then it all goes away, and we all sit here and go, remember when Bill was funny? Remember when Bill was kind of cool? So now it may not be Jacksonville. I don't know. But Jacksonville needs to figure it out, and they literally have, I'd say, probably 2 to 3 weeks to figure this out because, like I said, if they go 0-5, 0-6 or something, they can't figure – they're done. And then I think for sure you're seeing a new coach.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, to Bill Belichick joining up with Ryan Clark and Ocho Cinco. Who would have thought?
There you go. It's entertainment, man. Get you some Bill Belichick.
Well, Bucks McGee, we've got a week of rivalries. Some that hate each other, some that are kind of more newer rivalries. Maybe we see a lot of points, and maybe we see some teams go into tear it down mode after this one as well. Week 4, sir, we're underway. Give us your final thoughts here and take us off there.
All right. So Thursday Night Football, honestly, I don't believe is the start of the week. I'm sorry. It just for you Giants and Cowboys fans, I apologize for the product. It is what it is. This week's going to be interesting. I think. Well, what do you want me to say? It is what it is. I think this week you're really going to see some teams separate themselves, whether in a positive or a negative way. The matchups are solid, so I think there's going to be a good game whatever you turn on, unless you're a Jags fan. But besides that, everyone good luck. That's all I've got. Stay safe. Nutmeg. Week 4.